Cisco XDR PNM Sensor, private network monitoring sensor, unattended upgrades. So this is one of those things that the documentation doesn't tell you have to do, but since these PNM sensors are in fact Ubuntu Linux servers, it is a good idea to keep them up to date, at the very least for security updates. But I am going to show you how to do both security and unattended automatic updates for regular updates to it as well. I'm a Cisco employee. However, the views and opinions expressed in many of these videos are my own and do not represent the official position, policy, or perspective of Cisco or Cisco Corporation on any topic. So before we get started with the configuration of unattended upgrades, let's see where we currently are with this device so we can look at the before and after. So we're going to SSH into our demonstration PNM sensor here. All right, it looks like we have 158 updates that can be applied immediately. And if I scroll up, we are on 2404.1 LTS release. So keep that in mind. We're on 2404 and we have 158 updates that are available. So we're going to go through all the steps of how to configure an unattended updates and upgrades to your PNM sensor. And really, this isn't a PNM sensor specific tasking. This is regular Ubuntu style tasking. And it's always something I did on all my Ubuntu servers, regardless of whether they were a PNM sensor, was to make sure that they at the very least got their security updates as soon as those security updates came out. And we're going to do in total those. We're going to set it up so that it gets the security updates. In fact, I'm going to have it do all the updates and then automatically reboot itself at a certain time. Now, that key piece that I just told you about, a certain time, means I got to make sure that I'm in the right time zone and everything like that. So how do we do that? First things first, we can do to find out what time zone we're actually in. So I'm SSH'd into my PNM sensor right now. We're going to go to time, date, CTL, and it'll tell me current time, date, and what time zone I'm in. It looks like I'm set for UTC time, and I want to change that so it's a little easier for me. I'm going to change it to Central US time. So I need to put in a command for that, but the first thing I want to do is see how the format is supposed to be listed inside when I run the command itself. Sometimes it's like Chicago, or it could be America dash Chicago or something like that. So what I can do is this. I can go time, date, CTL, list time zones, and boy, there's a lot of them. It's going to start going through, and I'm actually looking for there it is, second from the top up there, America/Chicago. So that's what it's supposed to look like when I actually type it in. So I'm going to queue out of this so I don't have to go through the entire list because it is a lot of cities that they have listed in here. But to set it, sudo time date CTL set dash time zone America/Chicago. And of course I sudoed it, so I got to put in my password. And now I can time date CTL and see what it's set to now. Hey, look at that. Set to America/Chicago, -6 in this particular case, so that when we actually do our configuration and set it to reboot at 4 in the morning is when I think I'm going to set it in this demo. It'll actually be 4 in the morning local time to my sensor. All right, the next thing I want to do is after I got that time date in there like that, I want to see so we can do like a comparison before and after. What is how many upgrades or and updates are available to me? So the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to do a sudo apt-get update to get everything updated so I can see. Boom, boom, boom. It's going to go screaming through, find out what is available compared to what I have, and then I'm going to go do an apt list dash dash upgradable. Apt list dash dash upgradable. And that should tell me, whoa, yeah, look at that. There's a lot of them. All of these upgradable from, upgradable from, upgradable from. So we got a lot. So after we do this automatic update and stuff, we will do this again, and there shouldn't be anything listed there. All right, next thing we're going to be doing is the actual configuration of the update file. So where is that update file located? It's in change directory to etsy/app/apt.conf.d. And if we ls in here, you're going to see one called 50 unattended upgrades. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and configure that 50 unattended upgrades. There we go. And I'm using Nano. I used to use Vim when I did these demonstrations, but someone told me that if a Linux person is messing around with Vim, they probably already know how to do the things I'm showing here because these are all pretty simple ideas. So I switched to Nano because it's a little easier of a text editor for people that don't do Linux on a regular basis. All right, so we're in that file now. And by default, looking at this file, you can see right here that the apps.security and infra-security, that's actually not commented out. They comment them out with slashes in this particular file, which is interesting. Sometimes you use the hash value. Anyways, it's not important. What is important, though, is that we have it configured down here to do security. And remember what I told you? I was going to actually add the regular updates too. So I'm going to back out this line. So I'm not only going to get the security updates, but I'm also going to get the regular updates. All right, now we're going to start scrolling down and we're looking for some other things that are important to enable. Past that, past that. Sometimes I could probably do a search to get to it a little more, but um, I'm just kind of rip through this. This is kind of neat. You can actually set it to email you if that does the update, if it does an update and reboots or something like that, or if the update fails. Maybe we'll cover that in another video because to configure all that, I could just put the email address in there, but I don't have any of the send mail stuff configured on here yet. That's a whole other packages that have to be installed and everything, and I don't want to turn this video into a ridiculously long video. But here's one I want to enable: remove unused dependencies true. I'm going to delete those out. So, and you can see a couple of them here. Remove unattended upgrades, remove unused dependencies, and remove new unused dependencies. So what's the difference? So what's the difference? Remove unused dependencies and remove new unused dependencies has to do when the dependencies actually get removed. One is for, I'm changing this to true, by the way, after this first update, and the other one would be removed it after it updates a second time. And here's another one I also want to actually update over here. I actually had to look that up because that one caught me off guard. I didn't know the difference, but the recommendation was to enable both. I'm also going to remove unused kernel packages, and I want those just sitting around on there. And I do a lot of this kind of stuff because if it's one of those things, if software doesn't need to be on this thing, and I don't want to have it on here and create, some unforeseen security issue in the future because something, some tech debt got left on this thing over the years. All right, so boom, 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 removed unused dependencies. Here we go. Automatic update, unattended upgrade, automatic reboot set to false. I'm going to make this true so that afterwards, if it needs to do a reboot, if one of the packages requires a reboot, it's going to go ahead and do it. But we're also going to do it at a specific time. So, it's not just going to happen in the middle of the day and we might lose telemetry, but even if it did, these things are tiny and they reboot really fast and fire up the services really fast. I mean, within a few seconds and stuff. So a reboot of this little guy isn't that big of a deal, but we're still going to schedule it to do it during like off hours. So when is a good time to happen? we should go down here. Oh, here's another one. Automatic, unattended upgrade, automatic reboot with users equals true. So if somebody else just happens to be logged in, go ahead and reboot it. Um, even when they're on it, I'm going to leave that the way it is so it won't do that when they're on there. But here we go. This is the line I was looking for. Unattended upgrade, automatic reboot time. And remember, that's why we set our specific time of, what time zone we're in and everything, and made sure that we actually are getting good time. So when this reboot happens, you know, I'm not trying to do UTC in my head and getting it wrong. Anyways, not important. What is important here is that this baby's going to update it, do its upgrade at 2 in the morning, and then do its update and everything. And if it needs to be rebooted, it's going to do that. So let me make sure if I made this clear. This time is not setting when the sudo apt-get update, sudo apt-get upgrade, unattended upgrade process will run. This is when it will reboot. Um, if it needs to after that process runs, we're actually have to go to another file to tell it when to do this. Now there's a lot of other things you could configure in here. Like yeah, here's bandwidth limitations and stuff like that. That's probably not a problem in a corporate environment, especially, how we're going to configure this early in the morning, and you can enable syslog and get logging information about all this. We're not going to do any of that. And to be honest, everything that I've done is probably all you really need for your little sensor here. So let's go ahead and save this. Yes, we do. And that's what we're going to call it. And so here we back are at the command line. All right, so we think we're done because we updated the file there, but you'd actually be wrong. There's one more step. You got to do a sudo dpackage dash reconfigure dash plow, which does sound kind of funny, but it just means priority low. So let's go ahead and enter that. And as you can see, if you type it in wrong and don't have everything you're supposed to, it's going to error because I forgot to also add unattended dash upgrades. Why automatically download and install stable updates? Why, yes, I do. All right, that worked out a little better, didn't it? It's nothing like leaving your typos into a video for posterity to see forever. Okay, another file we want to take a look at, but we shouldn't have to make any changes to is 20 auto-upgrade file up there. So sudo nano, and actually we probably could just cat this out. 20 auto-upgrades. Okay, this basically takes the place of sudo apt-get update, and this is sudo apt-get upgrade kind of a line. And identifier of 1 up here, that number 1 basically means true. So it's going to run, apt-get update, apt-get upgrade when it actually does this. And those files work together. All right, so now we can get out of this. All right, there is a command that you can run to make sure you did everything right. It is sudo unattended dash upgrades dash dash dry dash run dash dash debug. We could run this and you guys could watch me go through it, but I did this when I was kind of putting this video together, and it took like 15 minutes for this to complete. And that is just too painful to do in one of these videos. But if after in your live environment you wanted to make sure that everything was configured correctly, you guys could run this and it'll give you the results out afterwards. And we're going to trust that I got it right the first time. So let's back this out because I don't want to sit there and do that. Okay, so have we done everything? Nope. We got to say, when is this going to happen? So we're going to go look at another file right now. So after we finish configuring our unattended upgrade files, we need to configure the timer on when this is going to kick off. So for that, we're going to go to lib/systemd/system. And in here, you're going to see a bunch of different .timer files, .service and stuff like that, and .target, but we're interested in the .timer files, specifically the ones related to apps, so we can actually do like a ls of apt star and see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. The one we are going to be focusing on for the work that we're doing with the unattended upgrades is we're going to go sudo nano app-daily.timer. And by default, it looks like this, and it's currently scheduled to go off at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. with a 12 hours of variability here. So the variability is so we avoid that thundering herd type of activity where everything kind of kicks off at the same time. But 6 in the morning or 6 in the evening with 12 hours of variability basically means that's going to kick off any time period in a 24-hour period. So we're going to change this a little bit. So the star.star.star means it can run any day, any time, any day of the week on any week of the month and any month of the year. That's kind of what that means. But we're going to change this. So we're going to run at 1 a.m. in the morning with a variability of 1 hour. So ours should go off at that time to do the actually do the upgrade and everything and reboot it if it needs to be rebooted, that kind of an idea. And yeah, that's all the only changes we need. So let's assume our maintenance window is kind of in the middle of the night. We don't want this thing rebooting in the middle of the day. And to be honest, even if it did, it's really fast. But we don't want that happening during our working hours. So ours is going to be very early in the morning, and it'll do its update, upgrade, download, and then reboot once this is done. So at this time, so we're done here. App daily timers. There's another step you have to take though. After messing around with a timer file like this, you need to do a sudo systemctl daemon-reload. And you need to spell it correctly. That always helps. I love leaving my typing errors in these videos. And then we can check the status of it. System CTL, and it always makes me nervous after doing that. Then I start really making a lot of typing mistakes. App-daily.timer to see if we actually configured it, if we did everything correctly in there. And yes, it looks like it's active and waiting, and we're good to go here. So looks like it's scheduled based on that variability to go off at 1:30 in the morning. Remember, 1 hour variability around that 1 a.m. time, 11 hours from now. All right, tomorrow morning we'll check and see if everything worked like it should. If it did, then when we come in, there should be no updates to do whatsoever. Okay, it's been one day. We are going to log into our PNM sensor here and check our results. And this is a really good indicator right here. 0 updates can be applied immediately. That means something happened. And let's check what version we are on. And it looks like we've been updated to 2404.3. So all in all, that looks like we're doing quite well. So if you do need to check some logs, where can you go? You can go to bar/log. And in here should be unattended upgrades. So if you do a ls unattended upgrades, and there they are, some log files for all of those. And also you can go to the apt subdirectory, and you should see a history log here of all the different updates that have included the apt functionality. So that's it. We're looking good. Looks like everything worked for us.